We're on chapter 49 of The Flower of Freedom, an original book by Deborah J. Reeves. All the rights to both the book and to my presentation of it are reserved. But I am very happy to be sharing this time with you. We're into some more difficult terrain, emotional terrain, in this book. The Nazis didn't just go away. Their ramifications were felt for decades, even up until today. We all have to face that and choose to be healthy. Okay, end of preaching. This is chapter 49, Bad Memories. When I got to that stage, he said he had a surprise for me. I was going on a train for the first time in my life. I had a new outfit and new shoes and even a new coat. I had been to the hairdresser in the morning for the first time in my life. I felt on top of the world and I felt full of hope. He told me that we were going to the countryside, to the Loire Valley. When the train arrived at the station, we were met by a shiny car with flags flying. It took us to a chateau. It turned into a drive, and the car traveled down the gravel driveway to the front doors of the most magnificent house I had ever seen. I didn't even know that such a place existed. There was a fountain in front with big double doors. He ushered me in, and we had a spectacular dinner in the dining room with waiters in white jackets. Several of the other men were accompanied by young women who tried hard to be good company. I remember that there was the most glorious chandelier. After dinner, I was taken to a lovely room on the second floor, and the first thing that alerted me to danger or trouble was that I was locked into the room that night. I was worried that I would get in trouble at the orphanage. In the morning, they brought breakfast to my room, along with another outfit that I was told to put on. The door was locked behind the servant who brought it. I ate my breakfast, and I wondered how to wear the clothes they had brought me. It looked like a white wedding dress with silk stockings and underwear and veil. They all looked like they'd been worn before. But that was nothing new for a kid who was raised in an orphanage. By mid-morning, Hans came into my room, followed by a priest who grinned at him and leered at me. It frightened me, so I went to Hans for protection. Right then and there, the priest stepped up and conducted a mock wedding ceremony in Latin and in German. Hans pledged unending love for me until one of us died, and he said his wedding vows. They made me repeat the words and sign the documents. The priest said I was now married, and now I had to do my wifely duties, and he left the room telling Hans to have fun. That became one of the worst days of my life. He went from Prince Charming in a fairy tale to a monster in a horror within a few minutes. I suddenly stopped being a human being to him. I was simply an object to pleasure him. When I did not do what he wanted, or I did not do it fast enough, he beat me with his fists, and the look in his eyes said he enjoyed it. His actions after a beating proved that he did. He stayed there for 2 days of horror, and then suddenly he told me that he had to go to work and that he would be back. I was locked in the room again all week until he came back. It took that long for part of the pain and the throbbing to dissipate. No one came to deal with my injuries. Hans normally came 2 days each weekend, and I lost track of the days. I lived for the times when he was not there, and seasons passed. After a while, I began to bore him. He did the same things, but he was not nearly as frenzied. It was then that I started being released from the room, and I was permitted to take classes with the other girls. That's when I met Anne-Marie. We were both top of our classes, even though I was younger. She took me under her wing. We met in class, and we had our meals together. She told me that she was the first girl at the chateau because it had been her home when the Nazis invaded. She was the special favorite of the commandant, and he never lost interest in her. I remember that on the night of my arrival, Anne-Marie was sitting next to the commandant at the end of the table. I remember thinking that I hoped I would be that beautiful when I grew up. It was about that time when Hans started to threaten to give me to other men. He never did, though. He had not realized that I had started my period. Anne-Marie helped me hide it. My cycles were short at first, and they happened while he was away. After a while, he started telling me that I was ugly, and when my body started to mature, he told me that I was disgusting. After a couple of months, my periods went away again. Hans went away for about 6 weekends at about that time. My belly started to grow, and then the school realized that I was pregnant. The drunken old doctor from town did a pregnancy test, and he said it was positive. Hans was informed, and he stopped coming to visit me. From that time on, I never saw him again. Anne-Marie told me that pregnant girls and their babies belonged to the Reich, and that ended Hans' claim on me. I was placed in the same dormitory as Anne-Marie because the girl who had been there from the first class of villagers had just disappeared when her baby was about to be due. She was taken from the room one night, and the next day they came, and they took away all her things and stripped her bed. Soon a new girl was there. No one knew where the village girl went. She was just gone a few months after I was sent to the room. The new girls were kept strictly isolated from the pregnant girls. Some girls had their babies. The ones who came back did so without a baby. The girl was always sent back to get pregnant again. Some of those girls who had babies were on their third pregnancy by the time I got to the room with Anne-Marie. She had already had one baby taken, and she was desperate to protect the one she was carrying. The night of the rescue is hard to remember. I was asleep when men came in and put their hand over my mouth, and they said that they were there to help. We told them about the back staircase, and Anne-Marie dragged me out of bed, and we were the first to run down the stairs and into the woods. Anne-Marie was desperate to keep her baby, and she would take any opportunity or risk to get away. That's the end of chapter 49. The next chapter is chapter 50, and it's called Of Light and Love. Please come back. It's never the same without you, and I mean that. Your friend, Deborah Reeves. Bye.